Thanks for checking back in with us. We're at the halfway point of our bus trip through Turkey, just leaving Didyma.
Yep, and that is the biggest and most well-preserved oracle in Asia Minor, and we have a lot of history majors with us on this trip.
Yeah.
But for an hour, we made them act like theater majors.
Get ready for a reenactment of how a 6th century oracle worked on this episode of the Turkish Zag Travel Show.
Dear friends, welcome to Didyma. In the entire ancient world, this is the 3rd biggest ancient temple. However, this is the only surviving one in this condition. It was an oracle center dedicated to Apollo, and the people from Miletus marched 12 miles long paved road to come here and consult the oracle in this center for their future, for their destiny. And the answer was not straight. They have to go and figure out that answer. You could come and ask any question you want, but without payment, no oracle. So no money, no honey. In this site, we can understand the piety of the ancient people. Once we talk about the pagans, we think kind of like the people with a loose belief. And as monotheistic people, we think that we are the only pious people. Well, in this temple, we can see that the pagans were as pious as the Jews, as pious as the Christians, and as pious as the Muslims.
Well, it certainly shows us the development of religion. How could you control the divine? Well, that's when they built up systems of ritual, of prayer, of rites. You can see them in the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid. You had to do the right sacrifice to keep the gods on your side.
For Asia Minor, the most important oracle is the oracle of Apollo at Didyma. We're going to give it as good a shot as we can to give a dramatic reenactment of what a suppliant would have done approaching the great oracular temple of Apollo at Didyma. So if I can get a little help from some volunteers. Do we have any volunteers? Ah, excellent. We have 4 volunteers. It's exactly the number I needed. First, of course, they would enter the sanctuary following the sacred road from Miletus. You would go and you would talk to a special scribe whose job it was to write up the oracular request. And there was a prophet. He was an annually elected magistrate who was chosen from among the elite of Miletus, and his job would be to keep the place running and to bring the messages to the prophetess. It was considered a very high status type of magistracy. Now first, the prophet would go down these small hidden staircases through the sides of the temple. He would go down these ramps and then approach the sacred Naiskos, where the prophetess would be waiting. Now she has gone through 3 days of fasting, she has ritually bathed, she's prepared herself for this. She would have her wand of bay, but she would apparently dangle over the water and sort of inhale the sacred fumes from the sacred spring. She wasn't allowed to drink it, but she would be sort of into a trance with these fumes. She would then begin to chant. And the prophet outside would be writing this down. And while the prophet's writing it down and she's chanting, of course, the suppliant would be outside. And although she couldn't see, he or she couldn't see what's going on, they could hear the chanting and know that their request was being prophesied upon. Once this was finished, the prophet would come back up. They would have written down the answer, and the suppliant would be provided by this answer. And then the suppliant would leave, perhaps making some additional offerings to Apollo before leaving. I've always enjoyed sort of dramatic reenactments. What I really enjoy about bringing the students here is that we can actually experience the atmosphere of the temple. Of course, this would have been not an inexpensive exercise, but it would have probably been a life-changing one for most of the people who came here.
In the learning process, what we hear, we forget. What we see, we remember, and what we do, we know. And this is what we are doing right now in Turkey. We see, we hear, and we do, and we learn. And that's Gonzaga students in Turkey.